we're still hanging out with the hilarious comedian and actress Margaret Cho. All right, Margaret, so it's AAPI Heritage Month, and as someone who didn't have Asian pride growing up, it was a little harder for me to be proud of it until I really embraced it later. What was your experience like?
Well, it was really Asian invisibility because you never saw images of yourself or people like you. We didn't see ourselves, so we didn't know we even existed. So it was a very strange emergence into culture. You know, there was no real way to sort of see. Like there were starting to be people like Connie Chung, who was a real trailblazer. People like Christy Yamaguchi and Michelle Kwan, of course, amazing. But in entertainment, if you couldn't really do martial arts, which I can't, there was like really like very little that you would see of Asian people, Asian women in particular. So it started to emerge like around 1994 with my television show, All American Girl, and the Joy Luck Club. But even after that, you didn't see much more. And so it took until pretty recently with Fresh Off the Boat, Crazy Rich Asians, and now Bling Empire, and of course, Minari, and there's more and more. But it's hard for me to sort of think that there's actually like, it's better. It's got to get better.
Yeah.
It's got to keep going.
Yeah.
The representation is still not there.
You were one of the first Asian female comics to have a sitcom, which was excellent. I mean, so you have your mark in history. It was groundbreaking. But Asian hate crimes are on the rise. And the Senate recently passed the anti-Asian hate crime bill, which is fantastic. But what do you think is the best way we can combat the hate and the misinformation?
I think to understand that we have to confront the biases within ourselves and really know that even if you are a person of color, we can still harbor racism against other races. It's very possible. And sometimes we just don't see it because it's like when you're oppressed in one area, you can't imagine yourself being an oppressor in another area, but it exists. Like Asian Americans have a hard time coming together because of our old biases against each other from the countries of origin that we're from and our families are from. So it's really something that we have to like look within and say, here we're all the same. And American is a country of American immigrants. We're all here from somewhere else unless you're a native.
That's right.
And that's really a strange thing where people have a hierarchy of who's more American. We're all the same. We're all the same.
Right.
So true.
Right.
Right.
Margaret, your podcast, The Margaret Cho, is currently in its second season. It is focused on mortal minority. What conversations can we expect to hear this season?
Well, it's really all about the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans, but also historical context for those hate crimes. So we'll go into repetitive situations in history where we've seen it happen, from the gold rush in California in 1849 to the Chinatown Massacre in 1871 to the Wyoming Massacre in 1885 to the Idaho-Oregon Massacre in 87. So there's just stacks upon stacks of historical precedences of crimes against Asian Americans that we've seen. And so I want to bring it back to, this is not an isolated time. This is something that we've seen generation after generation. And so we've got to put a stop to it.
Oh, I love your brain and your mind. I love that you show that women are so multi-dimensional, from obviously being hysterical, but also having all this incredible information. But Margaret, when you aren't tackling serious conversations on your podcast or making people laugh with your humor, you are now featured as one of the comedians in the FX original documentary, Hysterical. So tell everyone why they need to check out the movie. You got a lot going on.
It's hard to be a comedian, and it's hard to be a female comedian. I mean, you know, Lonnie knows, you know how hard. We have to work so much harder to get a fraction of the respect, a fraction of the money, a fraction of the notoriety. And so it's really about women coming together and talking about it and talking about our experience through comedy. And it's I think it's a great documentary. It's on FX and Hulu. And I was really moved by it. It's a really important look at women and what we do as comedians.
Well, we've got a clip from Hysterical, so let's check it out.
My dad used to tell me I was so beautiful, and I was an ugly child, like I legit was. I was diagnosed as one at the age of 11 by a caricature artist at a Six Flags. So I have the documentation.
A lot of really established comedians, men, would say, don't be so pretty. You can't be too pretty. You can't be too pretty because they're gonna be mad. The women will be jealous because you're so beautiful. The men will just want to have sex with you, so don't be too pretty. A beautiful woman is a threat.
Always telling it like it is. Margaret, thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with us today. Hysterical is available to stream now on FX and Hulu. And be sure to check out her new film, Good on Paper, which comes out June 26th on Netflix.